Hello, and welcome to this week's Movie Math, where this weekend, in a rare instance, Hollywood was not focused on getting you to pay to see their movies. Instead, they're laser-focused on Sundance. Well, maybe laser-focused is a bit much, because over the past few years, Sundance has waned in popularity and importance, with fewer and smaller deals coming out of the fest. It's actually turning into a bit of a pipeline to streaming, which is a sad commentary, not just on Sundance, but small films. But one of the problems is that the biggest movies out of last year's fest never really landed. The biggest being Honey Boy and the Farewell, but they didn't land like Sundance hits used to land. So Hollywood's doing what audiences are doing this weekend. They're both kind of picking over a garage sale, right? And so because they were focused elsewhere, they didn't really try this weekend. It's rare. Hollywood rarely does that. They do that, like the Oscar weekend is also the same way. And then also sometimes like at the end, like, in September, like late August, September, they're like, we need to take a vacation too. But, that's about it. Even streaming was weak this weekend, with only Netflix delivering Sabrina Part 3. Entertain us, Hollywood! Come on! Remember in December, just a month ago, when there was too much to watch? Some of that stuff could have gone here. I really do feel that eventually the whole calendar will be in play. But interestingly, we're not there yet. Anyway, as I said, there was still money to be made as Hollywood picked over Sundance and audiences picked over leftovers at the multiplex. There were some new releases, we'll talk about them, but the more interesting stories are actually with the leftovers. All right, so Bad Boys for Life easily held on to the top spot. And while its drop was a tad higher than I think Sony would want considering the lack of competition, it still sailed past the century mark at only its second weekend. But Bad Boys for Life still has two important countries to hit, Brazil and India, and there could be pockets of cash there, particularly Brazil. But no matter what happens globally, Bad Boys for Life will soon be the highest grossing entry in the franchise, not accounting for inflation, which is not in their favor. But anyway, this will help to further guarantee that fourth installment. Although, Sony and Bruckheimer better lock down Arby and Falah, as Marvel is already talking to the directing duo. They do love a directing duo over there. Then, 1917 also held on to the number 2 spot from last weekend as it continues to pick up award after award on what is looking more and more like an Oscar march. It just crossed the century mark, slow and steady, like its protagonists, and the World War I flick should continue to do strong business until the Oscars on February 9th, and probably the weekend after, as it's looking like it's going to win Best Picture. And everyone who still hasn't gone will go, well, I guess we better go. That's Universal's plan. And it's about the only thing going according to plan for Universal, as you'll see from the rest of today's discussion. All right, so, of course, Dolittle. Dolittle might be an animal whisperer, right? But it seems RDJ is finally an audience whisperer. Where was this skill before? He's been, out of Marvel a little bit. It never really clicked for him before, but for some reason, this movie is clicking, as Dolittle shockingly had an okay second weekend drop. It did not plummet. Worldwide, the flick is almost at the century mark, right? And it still has a number of very big countries to go box office-wise. It could make some real cash here. By the end of its theatrical run, and after streaming, the movie might actually break even, and perhaps turn a slight profit. I know that's a little bit aggressively positive because I'm just so surprised at this turn of events, but at least I don't think it's going to shape up to be a huge embarrassment like it initially seemed. And with his upcoming Sherlock in good hands with Dexter Fletcher, well, this is quite the hat trick for RDJ. Let's hope Downey and his wife/business partner realize that this was a close call and that they're lucky to have survived it rather than have the takeaway be, we're invincible. Or maybe they are, right? A B cinema score, these numbers, whoa. Why do you think audiences are okay with Dolittle? Have you seen Dolittle? Do you secretly think it's okay? You can tell us. All right, so yes. Some new movies were also released this weekend, but it wasn't pretty. The Gentleman, which has a really solid RT score, just couldn't entice audiences to pay to see it, with the lowest debut for Guy Ritchie ever. From highest to lowest. Ouch, Disney. If Ritchie's been playing hard to get with Aladdin 2, I bet he'll sign now. They're like, excellent. His price was just driven down. And Will Smith, by the way, just went up. It's a tough business, but I think they'll get Mina Massoud on the cheap as well, sadly. Although if they keep waiting, maybe he'll sign a deal. I hope he does. But anyway, it's really Matthew McConaughey's fault here, though, because this is a high debut for the Oscar winner, who's had trouble attracting an audience, a paying audience, for quite some time now. The entire cast really has this problem, as talented as they are. Ryan Gosling should have been in this movie, as nobody wants to pay to see him either. I know some of you are big fans of certain talent and you get all upset, but it's just it's a harsh reality of the business. You know, it's not just important for them to do a good job in the movie, but there's a salesman element to their job. They have to sell tickets, and nobody in this cast can sell tickets. It's one of the reasons that even though I adore Colin Farrell, I get worried every time he's in a big movie because he's got a bad track record as a salesman. So I don't know why. These people are also talented. Even Ryan Gosling. I don't know why nobody wants to pay to see him, but it's a sad but true fact. I'm not saying it can sometimes be turned around, but it's difficult. All right, so anyway. Then the embarrassments just keep on coming for Universal, who followed up Dolittle with The Turning. 12% on Rotten Tomatoes. F cinema score. An F, although we just had one for The Grudge too. So the F is becoming less rare as a cinema score. Yee. But it still managed to pull in $7.3 million, which shows why Hollywood loves the horror genre. But with a budget of $10 to $14 million, Universal even overspent here. As for the rest of the box office, some of you were like, why don't you ever bring up Jumanji, Grace? Well, here you go. Jumanji has hit $721 million worldwide. Now that's $200 million behind the last installment, but Sony will definitely make another one. That's excellent. And speaking of franchises, The Rise of Skywalker finally crossed 500 domestic. Woo! Now it still won't be able to catch Rogue One's 532 at this point, it looks like, but it's hard to reach 500 million, putting The Rise of Skywalker at number 15 all-time domestic. That's not bad. Leave with your head held high, Kathleen. Now is the time to go where everyone can win, right? I really feel this is we can all feel it. This is the moment. And speaking of Star Wars Redemption, Knives Out is now at $283.3 million worldwide, off of an incredible $40 million budget. Now, of course, that doesn't include advertising, but Styx didn't spend that much on advertising. They spent a good amount, though. It was advertised very much, but also very effectively. Rian Johnson might be in denial about ever making that Star Wars trilogy. He keeps saying, oh, it's still in the mix. Yeah, right. But he's definitely found himself a new franchise that he's created himself. That's an excellent counterbalance to I ruined Star Wars. But I think Kathleen Kennedy will ultimately end up wearing that t-shirt because she's the one who led him. The buck stops at the head of the company. Now, as for this coming weekend, it's Super Bowl Sunday, and I, of course, will be covering all the new trailers, reactions, and breakdowns. But that means no movies. Again, because, Hollywood feels everyone will be watching the Super Bowl on Sunday and planning for it on Saturday. So typically, nothing comes out this weekend, right? Except for the Fast and Furious 9 concert on Friday, where they dropped the trailer a little bit early, because Super Bowl spots are expensive, and you don't really need them that much anymore. We'll see how many trailers do debut. Disney's a big spender, though, and that's what everybody wants to see. So we should have some good stuff. Now, only 2 female-led picks are trying to counter-program the Super Bowl, the rhythm section and Gretel and Hansel, but neither is expected to counter-program successfully. So that's this week's Movie Math. Thanks for going over the box office with me. Share your thoughts down below. Subscribe today. And of course, as always, you can check out some more videos right now.